Hello, I'm going to show you how to draw a few different body shapes today. So I started out by drawing a shape for the head and the neck, and I'm just going to draw a few body shapes: a round one, a pear body shape, rectangular, and an inverted triangle. This is just one method of drawing bodies. As an artist, it's encouraged that you experiment with different methods. It also helps to look at references and try to break it into easy to recognize shapes so that you can build your structure. And this tutorial is going to be for female bodies. So now I'm drawing slanted lines for their shoulders. Now I'm doing a whole lot of erasing. Don't be afraid to tweak things a lot at this stage because this is what you're going to be building on top of. And one thing I forgot to include is that sometimes if you notice you have a habit of like drawing figures and they look a little slanted, sometimes it helps drawing a straight line down from the neck or the middle of the head straight down to the bottom where their feet are going to be so that you make sure that the figure you're drawing is like aligned and not like lopsided. Now you see me drawing circles to represent like the hip bones kind of, and drawing legs curved inwards because female bone structure, their skeleton, the hip area, like the upper legs kind of curve like inwards. I draw teardrop like shapes to represent the breast area, and we're just defining like where the pelvis is and stuff like that. The shoulders, then we have the upper arms, which is around the rib cage, the lower arms, and the hands, which end around the upper thighs. This body type is not as curvy around the waist, which is why when I connected the waistline to the hips, it's not like an extreme curve. It's kind of like, it's not exactly straight, but it's not really like curvy either. So now I'm drawing the knees, well, circles to represent the knees and the lower calves. Then we have to draw the feet. And as for how I draw feet, the method kind of changed because the way I was drawing them before, I was not really like highlighting the back part of the foot, so it looks kind of like hooves. So keep in mind that like I'm also still experimenting and how I want the bodies to look. And as an artist, there's always going to be room for improvement, and you're just going to have to embrace that and keep moving forward. Okay, and I drew like the neck and the head shape, which basically the head is kind of like oval, but like I kind of make the chin a little pointed, and then add ears in the middle of the head on each side of the head. So we're moving on to drawing the pear body shape, which means basically their bottom half is fuller than their top half. So most of their weight is carried around the thigh area and like the hips. And once again, I just made a teardrop shape for the breast area. And the waist here is going to be a little more like curved because like the slope from the smaller upper body to the larger lower body is going to be a little more like extreme of a curve. So basically I'm going to repeat the steps from before, just on a different body proportion, on a different body shape. Honestly, if you're like a beginner watching this, drawing all these bodies in one sitting might be a bit tedious or overwhelming. Just know that over time, as you develop your art skills and continue working on them, your art stamina will, like most likely, it will increase. So if you used to struggle like drawing for like 20 minutes and that was exhausting, one day you'll look up and realize that you can draw for like over an hour and not break a sweat. The bodies that I'm drawing in this video took me like 16 to 17 minutes to draw all four of these bodies, which is, it's because these are like these are a sketch. But if I was to actually like draw all the features, like their facial features, draw clothes on them and shoes, that time, like it would take much longer. So keep that in mind. Basically, try not to be too hard on yourself. Because as an artist, especially in today's social media age, there's a lot of pressure to get a lot of work done very quickly to keep up with like everyone else who's like posting every day. You want to make sure that you're intentionally working on your skills and building yourself up in more than one area. And sometimes working on drawing your illustration skills can be very overwhelming when you have other things going on in life, like school, work, and like family, and like all that stuff. Even if you get temporarily distracted, make sure to come back around to working on art if that's a priority to you, because it's going to be rewarding to visually see the improvement. Okay, so now we've moved on to the rectangular body shape, which this body shape is more common on athletes. Like you'll see their body starts to look like in these proportions as they're like building muscles. It's not necessarily like the case all the time, because sometimes there's like really skinny people with not like a lot of muscle definition who still have this body shape. So it's like a case by case basis. Yeah, a lot of models actually have this like rectangular body shape. Also, I will note that there is another body shape that I didn't include, which is the hourglass shape. But for like an idea on how to work on that is like basically making the top half of the pear body shape equal to the bottom half. So like it's like this like hourglass, literally, yeah. And then building off of that. Back to talking about the rectangular body shape. Sometimes if they're really athletic, you might see the shoulders actually being a little more wider than I made them here, because they're working on building their muscles and their strength. And like this applies to other body shapes too. Like for example, if someone with a pear body shape was working out their upper body, their proportions might start looking more like of an hourglass proportions. So, especially with like character building, like this is important to keep in mind in terms of what you want your characters to look like based on who they are as a person. Like do they work out or do they not? Like that affects their looks. And then the funny thing about life is that sometimes people just look toned even if they don't work out, because genetics is a factor here. So, take in mind like different ethnic groups and like common body shapes amongst them as well. That will also be an important factor. With that being said, with these body shapes, you can play around with proportions, because some people do have longer torsos than others, longer torsos and shorter legs, or shorter torsos and longer legs. So that does have an impact on how like the people you draw will look. Especially like if we're thinking about tall people versus short people, taller people tend to have longer legs. So we're moving on to the inverted triangle body shape, and this is body shape where the lower body is smaller than the upper body on like for the most part, and like the upper body is just like carries more weight. This is also a body shape that you might find on older women as well, especially if they used to be like maybe a rectangular shape or a round shape, and they've like um, now like they filled out on the upper area, and they're losing like fat on their lower parts of their body. This doesn't apply to everyone though, so take that with a grain of salt. Young people can have this body shape as well. Once again, I'm just repeating the process on all the that I did on all the other bodies on this one. So now I'll just reflect on things that I've been learning in the video making process. So I'm getting a bit better at my camera setup process. I finally bought one of those straight arms, like I don't know, those arms that like hang over the desk at a 90-degree angle kind of. And that's what I used to make this video, so it helped. It's like a mixture of fun and tedious, because like I constantly like have to like readjust to see if I'm like if the page is in view like before I start like drawing. So it's like an extra step in the process, where like in the past I just took out my notebook, my sketchbook, and just drew in it. Like now there's like this whole extra step. And for editing, like I have to constantly remove the parts as soon as my hand leaves the page, so that the viewer isn't just looking at like a unmoving page. For the audio part, the difficulty comes in finding a quiet moment to film, and also like making sure that my voice isn't cracking. I have to speak in like this smooth tone. I also have to constantly redo the audio. With that being said, thank you for watching this video and I hope it helped. Please leave a like and comment if you have any thoughts to share. Thank you for being here. Goodbye.